Hello, humans. I am back. It has been nearly 18 months since I recorded a podcast episode. I know it's been just a little over a year since a podcast episode has been published, but I haven't recorded one in over 18 months. And let me tell you, a lot has happened in these past 18 months. So thank you for listening, first of all, and thank you for allowing me back. And I have a lot to tell you, but I'm going to be breaking this up into shorter episodes because I want to be able to give myself the gift of sustainability as well. And there's just a lot of lessons that I've learned over the past 18 months that I hope will benefit you as well. But I am going to be going in a bit of a different direction with the podcast, given all that I've experienced over the past year and a half, because I do have things on my heart that I want to talk about. You know, I had already kind of started shifting the podcast a little bit, but now I'm going to be focusing a lot more on solo episodes. I love interviews, so I will continue to sprinkle those in, but I will be focusing on just my own episodes that I record myself, solo episodes. And I'm also going to be focusing on the topics that I will be discussing with you today. I do want to give you a trigger warning. This episode is not for children, absolutely not for children. So if you have kids around, put your headphones on or choose to listen to this later when you have some time by yourself, because I am going to be discussing some pretty heavy mental health topics that are not appropriate for children. In addition, if you're in a very vulnerable place and you're not feeling stable, this is not going to be a good episode for you either, because I have to talk a little bit about the instability I went through. Thankfully, I'm on the other side of it, but I also want you to make sure that you're getting appropriate help before you listen to some of the difficult things that I experienced. So let's get into it then. You are here for a reason, but navigating this human life can be challenging. How do you care for your body, mind, and spirit to make the most of your time here on Earth? How can you harness your incredible human potential? In this podcast, we explore these questions and more to help you craft your best life yet. Welcome to I Am Human. September of 2024 was a very interesting transition in my life. So I had had a physician assistant that I had hired to help me with my pediatric practice, Nourish Wellness. And I was very clear when I hired her that my intent was to do less pediatric care and focus more on my creation, my podcast, etc. And I was able to do that over the 2 years that she was with me. The podcast had been doing pretty well finally. I had actually been making a little bit of money off of it and feeling like we were in just such a great groove. It was a well-oiled machine. I was having a blast. It was so fun. I had also just come off of completing 2 half Ironman races, which had been on my bucket list for over 10 years. So I was feeling super accomplished and happy about that. But when it was clear that my PA was leaving, it was a really difficult thing for me. We had about 1,700 patients at the time, and she was full-time. I was seeing patients probably 3 days a week, so not quite full-time, but I was having enough time to do some of my other things and really wanted to go down even further. But it was a difficult time for me because I had lost a lot of confidence when she left. I felt like, did I make a mistake? I moved to a new location, which the lease was very expensive. Our space went up by 5 times. So we went from 2 exam rooms to 6 exam rooms. We had this beautiful location, and I had almost 9 years left, a little over 8 years left on my lease that I was locked into, which I had negotiated very well, so I didn't have to pay for any of the build out, but I was pretty much locked into this lease. The truth is, I didn't want to go back to pediatrics full time, but I felt like I had to. I felt like there's no way I could close the practice because I had the lease, I had built this thing, I had more employees, I had more people depending on me, more patients, more families. I had built this beautiful practice, but I also knew I couldn't sustain both because I needed to go back to pediatrics full time. So it was just going to be Dr. Yami sustaining the practice, 1,700 patients, go back to full time peds. And at the time, my choice was, since I can't do both, I'm just going to pause everything else. However, it didn't feel quite like a pause. It felt more like an ending of that side of me. I shut down my social media. I stopped my podcast. I stopped all of my creative ventures. And because I had lost so much confidence at the time, which is difficult to explain, because if you were to look at it from the outside, be like, Dr. Yami, it wasn't that big of a deal. Like, why were you being such a drama queen about it? There was this underlying belief that I had that side of me that wanted to have the podcast and wanted to create and wanted to be a writer and a speaker, an author, was bad. And that I was pursuing that at the expense of something that was good. That is being a community pediatrician, having a pediatric practice, and seeing patients full time. And so I decided at the time that because this happened, because my PA left, then I needed to deny that side of me and bury her, and that it was probably better if she didn't exist because it was really painful. When I stopped the podcast, it felt like cutting off my arm. I grieved so hard. And I left the door open. I know that last episode I recorded, I said, this is indefinite. I'm not sure how long it's going to be. But honestly, I thought that was it. And for some reason, I decided that it was better if I just almost killed that side of me and just became pediatrician Yami. Be happy with it. That should be enough. You're really good at it. Just want that and don't want anything else. That wasn't the only thing that was going on at the time. Right before my PA left, my mother got diagnosed with breast cancer. And that was really hard for a lot of reasons. I felt a lot of doubt about it because my mother went plant-based 6 months after I did. And we talk about risk, and it's not like a diet's going to make you completely invincible, and we all have to die. But I was feeling almost like it was my responsibility to make sure that she stayed healthy, and feeling like I had to carry that whole load of her cancer. And it created so much stress. But I'm also a type A person that when there's a crisis, I go completely into just fix it mode. And so I didn't realize that that was happening inside of me. I was just like, okay, we got this. We're going to do this. We're going to do this. I put my mom on like this ultra healthy plan of like green juice and Manuka honey and her exercise and sleep and all of this stuff. And my poor mother, was grieving herself because she had cancer. And it literally created so much conflict between us because I had this feeling inside almost like I had to fix it. And I can't explain this part either, but there was a part of me that felt like it was my fault that she got cancer. And for those of you that have experienced stuff like this, maybe you can identify with me. I know that if I would have ever heard somebody saying this, I'd be like, that's the silliest thing I've ever heard. Why would you think it's your fault? But honestly, for some reason, I started believing that too. Like, I'm just a bad daughter and I haven't spent enough time with her. And maybe I've created enough stress in her that caused this cancer. Like, seriously, I was like stressing myself out about this whole thing. So that happened. The other thing that was going on is that my son was struggling really bad in college over the summer. In fact, this happened at my first half Ironman race. We all went together. No, at the second half Ironman race, because the first one, it was just me and my husband. My second half Ironman race in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, we all went together, the whole family. And the morning after the race, my son said, I'm not sure if I want to go back to college. And we've never been parents that are like, you must go to college and you must have a defined plan and all of this. But it was kind of a little bit of a shock. And basically what we told him is like, okay, that's fine. But if you don't go back to college, you need to have some sort of plan. Do you have a plan? He said, no. Okay, well, then you have to go back to college. You have a scholarship, everything is laid out. Basically, it's paid for. We can, like, there's no reason why you shouldn't just go and get the classes and everything. Well, so here he is struggling with his own sense of identity and permission. And his mental health started deteriorating really bad. And the other thing that I was experiencing was perimenopause changes. And this all kind of happened at the same time. So it's hard to tease out how much of how I was feeling was coming from where. But my mental health tanked. It's the lowest I've been in my entire life. And I've suffered from depression since I was a teenager. So I've been in some dark places. But the difference between this depression and other depressions is that I had this intense self-rejection and denial of my true self. I decided that that other part of me that wanted to do the podcast, that wanted to be on social media, that wanted to educate people in this way, that wanted to build something bigger was bad. And I started assigning to it all of the conditioning that I had growing up. You're too much. You want too much. That's not even a good thing to want. You're just a show off. You want to be the center of attention. You're bad. You're bad. You're bad. You're bad. Obviously, whenever you're having thoughts like that about yourself, you will sink to pretty low places. Because one thing that I've learned through this whole journey is that you have to be your own best friend. You have to be your own biggest advocate. You cannot depend on anybody else. So I'm having all these struggles. My mom is one of my best friends. I didn't want to lay this on her because, hello, she's dealing with breast cancer and her own mortality. Oh my gosh. My husband, it's very difficult, even though, yes, I did reach out to him, but he's not great at dealing with difficult emotions from other people. And so he couldn't help me. And the other reason he couldn't help me is because I was feeling so burned out by pediatrics that one of the options was like, well, I just need to find a way to quit. And it scared him because I had this lease that if I left, it was like over $1 million that I would have to pay. And he's very financially averse. He's very averse to debt. And so any conversations we had about that were very scary to him. So I couldn't discuss that with him. And so I stayed inside this pain, very, very severe pain, probably one of the worst pains I've had in my life. My energy was low. I had intense compassion fatigue. I was irritable, but the depression got so bad that I couldn't even tolerate seeing my name. And that's never happened to me in my whole life. I hope it's never happened to you, but it's the strangest thing. Like, even seeing my name gave me disgust. Like, I was disgusted by my own name. And I wanted to go. So I planned my exit. I actually wrote my letter because I was feeling so trapped. I was feeling trapped in my business. I was feeling trapped in my body. I was feeling, I can't even describe that feeling of, I felt like I had no other choice. Obviously, I did, but at the time, it felt like I had no other choice. And I remember it was Christmas Eve, and we were driving for a little few days vacation with the whole family. The boys were in the back, and Brad was driving. And I was so depressed that there were tears pouring down my face the entire trip. And it was like a 2.5 hour drive to where we were going. And I could not stop the tears from flowing. And my poor husband, who has a very difficult time with other people's negative emotions, he couldn't do anything. He didn't know how to help me. And I think that's why it's so important to know that you have to be your advocate and you have to find that help when you're in those dark places. I'm going to be honest and say that the reason I didn't leave is because I knew that my oldest son needed my help. I knew that he was struggling. And I'll just say I'm very embarrassed about this. Maybe I feel a little bit of shame about it, not a ton of shame, because what are you going to do when you're in a place, when you're mentally ill? You can't just snap yourself out of it sometimes. But I did go to visit him before that Christmas break when I knew he was struggling and he was in crisis. And we're sitting there both crying because he's feeling so horrible, but I'm feeling so horrible that I couldn't even muster up the energy to help him like I felt like I should be helping him, because I didn't even want to be on this planet. And it was a horrible, horrible, dark time. But I knew that if I left, it would really, really negatively impact his life. And of course, of other people, right? But for him, for sure, I just knew that I just couldn't. I needed to stay here for him. I needed to get better for him. So this is all really foggy in what happened first, but I know I started searching online. I also started using an AI coach. AI helped a lot because I feel like whenever you talk to other people that know you, especially your family members, there can be a lot of bias there. So if I were to say something like, I want to leave pediatrics, be like, oh my gosh, Yami, why? It's so beautiful. It's such a beautiful career and you're doing such good for the community. And then it just makes you doubt yourself, right? So, yes, it's good to have friends and family, but it's very difficult, especially with family and people that love you, for them not to be biased about things. And sometimes it reinforces that conditioning. So I used AI and I found this amazing coach. Her name is Dr. Heather Fork, and she has a program called the Doctor's Crossing, her coaching program. And I worked with her and I started with lists, and I'm going to pull up a picture because I left it at home. I had my son send it to me of one of the first lists I made. And this was after I started working with Heather. I'm going to do a separate podcast episode about this, but I realized that my pediatric business felt like I was in a cage with a tiger. That's how it felt. She asked me this very, very powerful question, which I'm going to go through an episode and talk about this. But where I really wanted to be, I didn't want to be in the tiger cage. I wanted to be in unicorn and rainbow land. So I one day just got this piece of paper, folded it in half, and I wrote the tiger cage on the right and unicorn and rainbow land on the left. And I started writing all of the things that were causing me stress and depression and just that I didn't want under the tiger cage, and all of the things that I wanted in unicorn and rainbow land. The very first thing I wrote under unicorn and rainbow land under non-negotiables was I will love my job. And I kind of was in a place where I had convinced myself that it's okay if I don't love my job because most people don't love their jobs, and I'm really good at being a pediatrician, and I've built this beautiful thing, and even if I don't love it, it's fine. Just do it. Just force yourself to do it. And maybe you could force yourself to love it, but I will say that that's impossible. Anyway, I will love my job is the first thing that I wrote. Under non-negotiables, I also wrote engage in public speaking / impactful education empowerment. And then I wrote under fantasy desires, under Unicorn and Rainbow Land, was create a truly transformational program that changes lives. Have a thriving wellness center with intellectually stimulating and caring practitioners. Have a network of brilliant, loving, and caring colleagues that inspire me and that I can learn from. Go to conferences and meetings for personal and business growth. Become an amazing, high-paid motivational speaker / glitter doctor. Obtain and maintain a dream body. Become a pillar of the community and set a good example. Inspire teens, support healthy growth. And then I guess some of the other things I wrote under fantasy desires. I will have fun and be joyful. I will be excited to come to work. My team will be happy and productive. I want to be a success story that inspires other doctors. So this is what I started doing. I started just getting clear on what I wanted and what I didn't want. And on the side of what I didn't want was pretty much what I had been forcing myself to do. So I want to fast forward to where I am now, because since I started working with Heather and AI and started those footsteps towards that unicorn and rainbow land, now I have an amazing full-time pediatrician that I've hired, even though I thought that that was going to be impossible and I was so scared to do it. I have a part-time nurse practitioner that just started a couple of weeks ago. And I have another nurse practitioner that's working 2 days per week for me. And my goal is by the end of the year to hire one more part-time pediatrician so that Nourish Wellness will be open 6 days a week. And I started last week seeing patients just 1 day per week. And my goal is to retire from pediatrics by the end of August. Possibly sooner, but right now, for sure, absolutely, by the end of August, I will no longer be seeing pediatric patients. And that's a little hard for me to say and admit, but I know that that's the right path for me. And the reason it's hard is because I had all this conditioning that if I didn't want to be a pediatrician anymore, that meant that I wasn't good, that I wasn't generous, that I wasn't loving, that I didn't care about other people. And I didn't want to disappoint a lot of people. So my alternative was leaving this earth, which is incredibly dramatic. But I think that happens more than you think. The biggest lesson I've learned from this whole journey over the past 18 months is that it's okay to want what you want. Your soul came here for a reason. One of the most important things is to experience and to explore and to do the things that light you up and spark your curiosity and make you happy and joyful. You must give yourself permission to pursue those things. If you try to deny that part of yourself, if you try to deny the whispers from your soul, they will get louder. But if they're shouting at you and you still say no, it probably will affect your mental health. It's almost like I was having this battle between my soul and my human form. My human form saying, I know what's best for you. This is what society says is best for you. And you must follow this path, where your soul doesn't have those restrictions. Your soul doesn't care about convention. Your soul doesn't care who says what's right or wrong. Your soul just wants what it wants. And I think my soul just threw a hissy fit and said, fine. If you're not going to let me do what I came here to do, then I'm leaving. We're not having this relationship. And that's not really what my soul wanted. My soul wants to be here. My soul wants to explore. My soul wants to play and experience and be here to support those that I love. And so I'm very grateful that that human side of me started listening when the pain just got too strong and I knew that I couldn't leave. I knew that I had to stay here. Thankfully for my son, but now I know for more than that. And so I'm glad that I didn't go through with it. And I'm glad that I'm here to talk to you now about being on the other side. But I will admit that it is a daily practice. It's not like, oh, great, I figured it out. Now I know exactly what I should be doing. And I feel so free. No, I feel better. I feel the best that I have in my life. But I still have to be careful about not listening to that human side that says you're wrong for wanting what you want, and really reflect upon that it's okay. It's okay to want what you want. It's okay to pursue your dreams and goals. And yes, it may not ultimately happen the way that you think it's going to, but the gift, the reward is actually in the experience of pursuing it. It's not necessarily in the getting of the thing. And one of the things that I have reflected upon and reminded myself of is you look at little children, and when they come here to the earth, everything is so magical and new and exciting, and they just want to experience things to experience things. So they do things like climb up on things and try different things that we as adults may think is silly, or we're always warning them to not do things because they might get hurt. But they're not thinking about that. They're thinking of like, I want to try that thing. I want to climb that jungle gym. I want to try the monkey bars. I want to try the seesaw. I want to try and hang upside down. These things are all so fun and exciting, and I'm not judging myself for wanting them. And I'm not stopping myself because I'm so afraid I might fail. In fact, they fail over and over again. Kids are full of bruises. They fail over and over again. They laugh, they get back up, they try it again. So as adults, we have to allow ourselves to see the world like children. And we would think it's weird if there was a child that was sitting there in a corner saying, it's not good for me to want to climb the jungle gym. That's a bad thing. I might get hurt, plus freaks my parents out, and I really just shouldn't do it. So I'm just going to sit here and not do those things even though I want to. But we're like children too. We're older and we have more experience. And yes, we've been burned. And yes, there's been scary things that have happened to us, but we have to allow ourselves to pursue what we want. That's why we're here. We're here to experience, we're here to explore. So think about where in your life you are not giving yourself permission. And I'll say that the only person that can give you permission is you, because I'm going to explain later in another podcast episode all of the things I tried to do to get permission from other places, i.e., the universe. I wanted a sign so bad. So bad. I think an AI even told me this. Do you want it just written across the sky that says it's okay that you quit pediatrics? But the truth is, even if I would have seen it written in the sky, Yami, it's okay if you quit, I probably would have thought, okay, maybe that's just random cloud formation. No, that's not really what's going on, because I had to give myself permission. Nobody else, including God, could say, Yami, truly, it's okay. Nothing bad is going to happen. I had to give myself permission. You have to give yourself permission. Nobody else can. And yes, you might seek validation from other places, but ultimately it's you. So, what have I now given myself permission to do and to want? Retire from pediatrics. In fact, I'm there. I have a plan. It's going to happen this year. 2, pursue my dreams to become a motivational speaker. And I don't care if that sounds weird or silly or crazy, but it's what I want. So I'm going to try it. I'm going to go for it. And I'm so happy I'm giving myself permission to do this. 3, build the body of my dreams. I am on my way there. I'm so close. This one is going to require a podcast episode of its own too, because this was a whole emotional, mental drama as well. But I'm so happy that I've given myself permission to do that. I love it. I'm incredibly happy. Permission to build the body of my dreams, and 4, permission to be seen and to tell my truth. So I'm coming back to the podcast. It's going to be a little bit different. And it's really important for me to be able to come back to the podcast, not to make money off of it or to monetize it or to get anything from it, but because I need it. I need it like I need air. I need it like artists need to create their art. I think of my beautiful friend who is a musician and music producer, songwriter. She needs to make music like she needs to breathe air. And there's people out there that you're like where I was, where you were denying yourself because you were judging it, and you're the only person judging it. Yes, other people might judge it, but you are the one stopping yourself, not other people. There's nobody over here holding me down and saying, Yami, you can't leave pediatrics. You have to be here. You must do this every day for the rest of your life until you die. No, I was the only one. I was judging it myself, afraid of what people might think, afraid of what people would say, afraid of who it could affect. Nobody else. So please remember that you have to give yourself permission to pursue those experiences that you deeply desire, and you know what those are. Don't turn off your heart. Don't deny yourself. Work with yourself. Allow that human form of you to work with your soul. Your soul is wise. Your soul is love. Your soul has desires. This is your soul's playground. You have to allow it. You have to allow it. So thank you again for giving me this platform. Even if nobody's listening, I'm going to keep coming back because I need it like I need air. And I'm learning to love all the different parts of me. And I hope that you will too. And I hope that this helps you. My name is Yami, and I am human. Thank you for listening to another episode of I Am Human. I would be so honored if you subscribe to the podcast so that you never miss an episode. We love our listeners and take your feedback seriously. If you have questions or constructive feedback, you can email us at podcast@dryami.com. That's podcast@doctoryami.com. I am your host, Dr. Yami Cazorla-Lancaster. I Am Human is produced by myself and Alejandra Parra. Graphics designed by Alejandra Parra. Music by Angela Soph with Glowbox Productions. Remember, human, you are here for a reason. Have fun, explore, and live your life to the fullest.